All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to St. Louis Yoga Week, and happy International Day of Yoga to everyone. My name is Elle Brodsky. I'm one of the coordinators of St. Louis Yoga Week this week, and I'm very excited for this panel discussion that we're about to dive into, specifically to talk about the many different ways of meditation. So I'm joined today by Tom Bushlack, Jee Moon, and Andrew Nunberg, who each have sort of a different background within the theology of meditation, if you will. And so we're gonna get started. So Tom, first, take a moment to introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks for the invitation to be here. So my name is Tom Bushlack. I offer coaching and consulting for leaders, especially in healthcare and business and education, who are struggling with overwhelm and maybe burnout. Help them get re-centered through a contemplative practice and get back in touch with the kind of guiding purpose that inspires them in the work that they do and to give back.
Thanks. And Andy.
Hi, so my name is Andy. I am a teacher with the Art of Living Foundation. So we do programs around meditation and mindfulness for whole different sectors of society, professionals, veterans, everybody.
And Jee.
Yeah, my name is Jee Moon, and I teach yoga and meditation at the Urban Breath Yoga Studio. Yeah, and it's my major yoga thing is the yin yoga, which is also very much related to meditation practice. By the way, I cannot hear Tom for some reason. Just to let you know.
Oh, I heard Tom.
He's like the most audible for me.
That means my good mic is working.
Maybe not.
Can you hear me?
I hear Andy and Elle.
Huh.
Well,
okay.
Well, Tom, we'll have you do interpretive dance while you talk so that Jee.
I don't know sign language, but I can
just explain.
Yeah.
So I think, one of the intentions in creating this specific panel and inviting these panelists was to really sort of identify that meditation isn't always what people think it is. And I think I have a lot of conversations with folks who sometimes think meditation is very specific to one religion or spiritual practice. And so, I can't meditate because I'm Christian, or I can't meditate because a myriad of lists and reasons. And so, I know that Tom, you come to it through Christianity. Andy, the Art of Living is sort of rooted in Hindu culture. And Jee, I know you have a lot of background with Buddhist and Zen practices. So I'm curious if each of you could talk a little bit about, well, I guess maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let's talk about what meditation is separate of the theosophical addition, which is separate of meditation, right? So let's talk, what is meditation? Let's start there.
Who's going first? I guess I could start because I spoke first. So in India, there is this tradition called the Vedic tradition, which is actually not religious as the way Westerns define it. So, and that's my training. So meditation is deep rest for the mind. That's the most basic definition. And it's also a state of mind. It's not an activity. It's considered a separate state of consciousness. I don't know how much more you want me to say, but just that basic thing. It's rest, and it's a state of consciousness.
I agree with that. So I think the first step before meditation is being able to relax. So I think meditation is maybe in some extension can be considered as a form of relaxation, which means you create the energy direction and flow more internally, inwardly, and calm it down rather than being busy with engaged things outside the world. So yeah, I strongly agree with Andy. It's a form of relaxation, but you can actually deepen it a lot more with some techniques and practice, yeah, obviously. And then I would add to the state of mind more, maybe the state of the energy flowing much more calmly, and then maybe it's like you feel your body, your mind itself as a big open ocean that has like very, very gentle wave or even no wave. Yeah, that's my interpretation.
Well, it's interesting, even though
What about you, Tom?
Yeah, even though my primary practice comes out of the Christian tradition and centering prayer, my understanding of the word meditation is pretty informed by my own study of yoga. So I tend to think of it, I agree with everything that both of you said in terms of relaxing into the present moment. When I think of meditation, I usually think of it as having some kind of a focal point that may be an object, but not necessarily, that sort of anchors me to the present moment, that then opens up into those deeper states of presence that are always there, but we're not conscious of unless we bring some intention and practice into it. And then I think different traditions have different language for talking about what's there once we start opening up to it. So that's kind of how I think about meditation.
Yeah, that's great. Jee, I can't figure out why you still can't hear Tom.
Yeah.
You sent me a note.
I don't know. I'm so annoyed about that.
You can watch the replay later and see what he just had to say. It's just
there is something I wanted to add to Jee's comment, which is really also true in yoga and the Vedic tradition, that the quality of your energy does make a difference. And for people who are familiar with yoga or Ayurveda, in the Vedic tradition, we talk about these three qualities of energy: sattva, rajas, and tamas. So a sattvic person, sattvic diet, sattvic activities, makes us most amenable to meditation and to opening up. So things like being vegetarian and not having alcohol and all these other caffeine, something to be avoided, all these different things help cultivate that quality of energy for meditation, for people who are really, quote unquote, serious about meditation. That's why you have, like in yoga, you have all these niyama, yama, all these things just to cultivate the sattva. And it's odd because in a lot of texts, they call it a sweet diet, but they're not literally talking about the taste. It's just a way, like 100 years ago when people were translating the text, they would say it's sweet, light. So lightly spiced, but no meat in Ayurveda is considered sattvic. So that's why that tradition of being vegetarian, it's not so much about, we think about today, about animal cruelty and all that, but just in terms of a quality of what you're ingesting for people who are wanted to go deeper into that.
Really good point, but I think, that's where people start feeling a little scared about meditation. Like when you start being serious about it, it is inevitable that you have to make some changes in your life decisions, life choices. But so if we are talking about people who are beginning to meditate, like I would say, don't worry about all those. Whatever you've been enjoying, you can just go on. But as a person's practice becoming more serious, becoming deeper, I think each person find their own path to slowly involve more, like in a way that how Andy described. And then
it's definitely a process. I'm not saying day one be vegetarian, but people don't understand like why, like traditionally as a good teacher, you should be vegetarian. Why? So you could be more sattvic.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
totally.
and I think that, this is where then having this really broad perspective of all of these different paths, it's essentially these different paths to try to get to the same place, which is to connect within, right? And so recognizing that there are these many different paths. So then tell me, how did, Tom, let's start with you. How did you get into meditation? What brought you to meditation?
Yeah. I mean, I had some like weird, maybe not weird, but inklings towards meditation. I was doing like yoga poses in my room as a kid. I have no idea where I learned them. And I was grew up Catholic. And so I was like reading scripture on my own and really interested. But I would say my depth of practice took off in college. I had a professor who was a Benedictine nun, a sister, and she had someone come into our class and actually teach us a couple different forms of meditation or contemplative prayer that are common in the Benedictine tradition. And one of those was centering prayer. And I just had this incredible experience in the class of feeling like, whoa. I mean, one 20-minute session with like 2 minutes of instruction, and it just stuck. And I started practicing on my own, not really even knowing much about it. So I was 19, 20 years old probably. So I've been doing that for over 20 years, and that's sort of still my home or native practice. And since then I've, studied and gone through the commissioning process to teach it and all that, but that really remains the root of my practice.
It's beautiful.
Mm.
Andy, what about you? What brought you to meditation?
I had attempted to do some meditating through books, which was a horrible experience. And then now my husband, but back then my boyfriend introduced me to Art of Living, and he just said, "Hey, we're doing this course. Do you want to do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds awesome." So I was at, I think, I wasn't really necessarily looking for anything, but it just sort of fell into my lap, and then I just got more involved with it.
Yeah, trying to teach oneself to do anything from a book sometimes goes well and sometimes doesn't.
Especially with meditation, I think.
Yeah, certainly takes a lot more patience.
Yeah. Jee, how about you? What brought you to meditation?
Before I get there, I'd like to mention that I really like to hear Tom's face expressions. Very calm, expressive. I like it. Obviously I started a asana practice first when I was doing yoga, and then what I learned about hatha yoga was preparation for meditation. Then at the point when I started yoga meditation was like 5 years later. I started hatha yoga, and I never learned how to do meditation, and I was wondering why we just keep preparing and never do meditation. So I feel like nobody gonna actually do that. Like as long as I'm in the yoga community. At the time there was Korea, so I brought myself to a Zen monastery, where is obviously meditation happening. So and then meditation in Zen tradition is really hardcore. So I think I start with really, really strict and very stiff manner. And so I found it's actually not really pleasant, but I have Korean blood, so I was like, I gotta really hit it harder. So I was very not ideal meditator in the beginning, and then I learned many different traditions after. And right now, actually, my practice is more towards chakra meditation, combined with the Zen meditation. And I think that's like my own experience is healthy to experience many different traditions, and then kind of cook it on my own way that works best for my constitution and personality.
Yeah. So what advice would you have for somebody who is new to meditation? One thing, the first thing that I hear from people when talking about meditation is, oh, I can't sit still, or, oh, my mind goes a mile a minute, so I'm bad at meditation. How would you respond to that?
Can I go first?
Yeah. Let's have Jee go.
When I was in the process of learning meditation, of course I am still learning, but when I was learning about how to meditate, I always thought I was a very bad meditator, and I was always thinking I'm never gonna learn it, and when I'm gonna do meditation just like that guy. not knowing how he does meditating, you know, because the way how I learned meditation, like it's sitting 10 hours every day, not talking, right? So, and then some meditators appear to be really super on top of that. Like, and then I was struggling so bad. So I was very judgmental to myself for actually quite a long time. And after many, many years later, I learned actually all those effort that I made in that with a very, very happy and negative judgment towards myself was also a big part of my meditation practice. And then I learned that there's no such a thing as bad meditation. So as long as we put effort, even 5 minutes a day, you know, it doesn't really matter how long you sit. As long as we put effort to do it daily, you know, for the sake of our own happiness, for the sake of, you know, the peace of the world, I think it always goes somewhere towards something much more positive.
That reminds me of a story that one of my yoga philosophy teachers told of a time that he did this big panel discussion with this huge group of hundreds of yoga teachers. And this student came up to him afterwards and was like, you know, I meditate for 2 hours every morning. And I'm just wondering, like, how long do you meditate in the morning? And he was like, he had said in the panel discussion that he meditates for like a short period of time every day. And she's like, I just don't understand. I do it for 2 hours. And he's like, oh, I wonder what you're doing wrong then. And I just love the idea that it's like quantity does not equal quality, and quality will vary.
Tom, I think just one thing. One last thing. I think in meditation practice, the repetition and the regularity is much more important than how long you sit.
Absolutely. Agreed. Tom, how about you? What advice would you have for somebody who's intimidated by or new to?
Well, I love your examples, Jee. I'm sorry, you can't probably hear me say that, but the first thing I would say is start. And then the second thing, which I think Jee captured really well, is there is no right or wrong way to do it. And that so many of us get caught up for years. And I think probably all of us do. Like, either I'm good or bad at it. And there really isn't good or bad. There's just showing up and not showing up. And so show up. That's my advice. The other thing that I have come to emphasize a little bit more recently is that I do think there's benefit in picking some kind of tradition or style or method, for whatever word you want to use, and going with it. I think with the proliferation of apps and things, which I myself teach on some apps that are out there, it's easy to just bounce around, and that becomes sort of it's like the quintessential American way to do things. But everyone I know who really goes, really develops a consistent, regular practice, no matter how much time they give to it, has committed to a practice and a tradition. And so that's another piece that I encourage people when they're just starting out.
Very good. Andy, how about you?
I've been doing some meditation before COVID, doing meditation sessions. And first, I like to ask people, what is it that you want out of meditation? And to make sure that the practice gives you what you want. Some practices are all about focus and effort, and that's what I want. Okay, then you do that. But if you want relief, then you want a practice that matches what you want out of it. One. Another thing I always do it all in my sessions is preparation for meditation. I liken it to running. Like, a runner doesn't just walk out the door and start running. They warm up. So similarly, like Jee was saying, like, we have to, it's sort of a contradiction term, but you have to be peaceful to get more peace. If the mind is completely in all this chaos and restlessness, it's very hard to settle down. So we settle down to settle down more deeply. So that could be, it depends on what they like to do. You could do like a little bit of yoga or just walk for 5 minutes. And then in Art of Living, particularly, we focus on the breath. So using the breath to take that edge off. and then we can go deeper.
Hmm.
And then, like what Tom was saying is true. Like, you know, meditation's been practiced all over the world for a long time. A lot of things have been taught over the world for a long time. And especially in the Vedic tradition, this parampara, this lineage of teachers, is given a lot of importance because you can't ask questions from a book or an app. And like anything that's an art, you cannot learn it from facts. Like medicine is an art. It's called the healing arts, not the healing science, because any physician will tell you there is this knack that you can't learn from a book. But you can learn from a living master, someone who has mastered at least to some degree. So that relationship with the teacher or having access to a teacher is part of the almost all the traditions, actually, if we're looking at Buddhist or Christian. All these traditions, all these spiritual traditions have this sort of teacher-student relationship. And like you were saying, everyone wants an app. And apps are good, and then they come to one of you guys or us because they have plateaued with the app. They want more. So in one sense, the apps are not bad because it gets people started. But then they realize, okay, the depth isn't there. And depth comes from that, in English, the grace from that tradition.
Yeah.
So there's a difference between technique and the magic that happens in meditation. Like you were saying, there is relaxation, which is mechanical for me in a sense. You do a certain thing, you get relaxation. But that magic that we experience in meditation does not come from the technique. It comes from something else. That comes from this honoring this tradition or whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's centering prayer or whatever, but that has a tradition that has these people behind it. You're standing on the shoulders of all these people that come here. So Patanjali talks about this in Yoga Sutras, honoring the practice. It's not for you it's for you that you honor the practice. It's not for these people, because when you honor it, it elevates it and you become more present, like Tom was saying. When you honor something, you're more present. And what Jee was saying is also true. 5 minutes a day, because Patanjali also talks about this. A practice is a practice when you do it without a gap, with all honor and respect, and then you become established. Yeah. So it's like these baby steps. You have 5 minutes. I tell my students, you got 5 minutes. Everyone has 5 minutes. Even a brain surgeon has 5 minutes.
Right, right. Well, so I want to say, because we'll be doing some guided practice. Each of you will be leading some guided practice here in a moment, but anybody who's watching live, if you have any questions that you want to ask the group or any of the panelists specifically, I couldn't think of a word.
The meditators.
Feel free to type that into the comment box, and we can see that and address that here. One of the things, Sai Sabnivas led a guided meditation for us on Monday evening, and he is going to be on the Yoga as a Way of Life panel discussion at noon. But one of the things that he said in his guided meditation that's really stuck with me is as you quiet your mind, look inward. God is hiding within you. And I thought that was just so beautiful and God for me, the way that I teach is like God, the universal, that which connects all of us, like enter in whatever your meaning is there. But, listen deeply, because the universe is hiding inside of you. And that's that idea of that's what we're connecting with, is something greater than ourselves through this practice, is I think a really beautiful way of looking at it. And both the intimidation of like, this is so much bigger than I'm just trying to relax, but also the simplicity of like, I am so much more.
Yeah. Can I make a comment on that? I love that, because it reminds me that meditation is not the end or the goal. Sorry, I guess G can't hear me. But I was, and I stole this idea from Ram Dass, but he talks about how the goal is not to become a meditator. The goal is to become free. Mm-hmm. And the meditation is the practice and the discipline on that path. And then we can define freedom how you put it, right? Whether you think of it as union with God, oneness, presence with the universe, however you put words to that in your own tradition. But I think that's an important piece is you learn a meditation as the path, but it's not the end and goal in of itself to become a meditator.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really love to see when traditions overlap and affirm and recognize the different paths as being like the Venn diagram, right? It's like we have different approaches, and yet here's the echoing through these different cultures. I think is there's something about being human where we're driven to learn more and to connect more and have more explanation for what this is. So that's a very human thing.
Mm-hmm.
We have one question that popped up here is, where can we find and learn simple singing mantras to incorporate into our meditation practice? So similar to like Jee, what you did this morning with the Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu chant. But any suggestions of places to look for some mantra, and whether that's in Sanskrit or any other traditions?
I'm not so sure about Sanskrit chanting. I mean, I know myself I've been doing it in my class, and then I actually released about 2 weeks ago that was a chanting and meditation. Was more like bija mantra, but I know if you go to Buddhist meditation sessions, sometimes they combine the Buddhist mantra very strongly, and in Buddhism, chanting sutras is very, very important a way to practice, and it usually done before sitting meditation. Excuse me. So maybe that's a good way that you can look for. But Buddhist the mantra is a little bit longer, so you have to read it actually.
Until you memorize it after years, yeah. And I would say real quick, there's actually a Christian mantra-based form of meditation. It's not the style that I teach and that I'm trained in, but that typically uses the word Maranatha, which is an Aramaic word for "Come, Lord." If you look up, if anybody's interested in that, the World Community for Christian Meditation is the sort of organization that teaches that style.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And Tom, I have a question for you specifically. The way that we were introduced was through a yoga student of mine who works at the organization that you're at. I'm curious because what she shared with me, so maybe this is true or not. What she shared with me is you've been really integral in introducing meditation and mindfulness as a tool for self-care for the employees at that organization. Could you talk just real briefly about just real quick, how have you influenced and changed that corporate culture, and were there any challenges in getting that implemented?
Oh boy, yeah, that is a long.
In like 2 minutes.
Yeah, because changing the culture of a 40,000 person organization is pretty quick and easy. No, I do work in healthcare as well currently, and there is sort of I would say, crisis level of ongoing stress for care providers in particular, and we're working to introduce different forms and styles of practice to people that are in our hospitals and in our care sites. So it's a process. What we've done is we've identified people throughout the organization. We're actually in 4 states who know and are sort of experts or teachers in different traditions, and then tried to provide opportunities for them to share that. And it's always by invitation. If you're feeling overwhelmed and you want to try this, come and show up. But the response has just been overwhelming. People are hungry for it. So again, it kind of comes back to what I said about meditation. It's just start, just do something, and then it grows from there.
Beautiful, thank you. Oh, you nailed it in that 2 minutes.
No, I tried.
All right. Well, so what I'd like to do here is give a little space for each of you to lead maybe a 5-minute guided practice. So for those of you who are joining us today, get in, you can at least start here. So if you've not tried meditation before, here's a little buffet of 3 different teachers and 3 different backgrounds to practice with. So who would like to kick it off?
You're the teacher. You can pick
Why don't
somebody.
we just go in the
Go in the
same,
order?
yeah.
Okay, so
same
we'll
order.
start with Tom then.
Tom?
It's a Brady Bunch. Okay. So I will teach you the very short way that I usually begin a centering prayer meditation. And I didn't make this up. This comes from contemplative outreach and the work of Thomas Keating and others. The practice itself is pretty simple. You choose a sacred word or a centering word. And the suggestion is that that word be 1 or 2 syllables, a short word. It doesn't matter what the word means or is, because it's a symbol. And we'll talk about that in a second. So as I'm talking, you can think about a short word that you want to use. It could be in another language. It could be your own language. It really doesn't matter. Unlike a mantra repetition where you're sort of meditating on the meaning of the words, centering prayer it does not engage in that same way. So you pick a sacred or a centering word. And then when we start the practice, which I'll do in a second, every time you notice that you are engaged with your thoughts, you silently repeat that sacred centering word to yourself as a symbol of your intention to consent to the presence and activity of God in the moment. So again, however you understand God, but the word itself becomes a symbol of your intention to consent to God's presence and action in each moment, or to the whatever's arising. So you'll have thoughts. That's normal. And then you just, every time you notice that you're sort of following that thought and wondering what's happening, you just silently repeat the sacred word to come back and to let go and to say yes to your experience and to the divine healing presence in the moment. So that's the basic practice. So really what I would do is probably, I'll set a timer for maybe just 2 minutes. Normally the suggestion is to do this for 20 to 30 minutes. And we start off right off the bat in the first workshop doing 20-minute sits. We obviously don't have time for that right now, but anybody can do it. So I'll just invite you to take a second to choose your sacred word. And the meaning doesn't matter, 1 or 2 syllables. It's a symbol of your intention to consent to God's presence and action within. And then we'll do 2 minutes. Every time you notice you're engaged with your thoughts, silently repeat that sacred word to yourself. And then we usually invite folks to just stay sort of still for a minute or two before moving into what comes next, rather than, jumping up and grabbing your coffee as soon as the bell goes off. So that's the approach. It's pretty simple. Anybody can do it. It does, even though it comes out of the Christian tradition, and there is a whole theology behind it that we get a little bit more into in the full intro workshop. But I teach it to people of all kinds of backgrounds. One of my favorite stories is a fellow teacher who runs a center in Omaha. And some of her most consistent people who show up are a group of Muslim women who are immigrants to Omaha, Nebraska. And they love centering prayer. And they sit there in silence with their Christian and other friends. And I think that's just a beautiful symbol of the simplicity of the practice.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Andy, take us on a journey.
Oh, I thought Jee was going to go next.
oh, I guess if we're going clockwise here, let's go. Okay, so we'll go Jee. Jee, take us on an adventure. Yeah.
Okay, sure. It's about 5 minutes. So once again, I am so sad that I didn't hear Tom, but I'm sure it was amazing meditation. All right. So I invite you guys to sit in the most comfortable pose. Okay. So you can sit on your chairs. You can sit on the ground, and certainly, elevate your buttocks up if you're sitting on the ground. So that's gonna be very helpful to have your spine upright without too much tension. So ultimately, you want to feel more relaxed body than muscular energy running all the way along your meditation. So once you sit comfortably with have your eyes closed, and please take a few breaths, being aware of the body, changing its state in a very subtle way. Maybe you'll immediately feel the body start losing its tension. So please be open to the subtle changes. And then don't worry about that you're losing the straightness of the spine. Rather, see if you can feel more softness around your belly, the throat, your jaws and eyeballs. And in fact, you can continue observing the physical body like that, combining with the breath the entire time. So that's already a nice way that you can meditate. And in the process, we find ourselves becoming calm. And we learn that relaxation is not something you can make it, more something that unfolds on its own. And if you feel settled with your physical body, relaxed and calm and still, please bring your mind to your lower belly. And try to go deeper in the very space towards the center of the lower belly. As you're feeling that space expanding while you breathe in, contracting as you breathe out. And if that stiffens your body again, please pay attention back to the body gradually softening once again. And then return to your lower belly. So always cultivate the deeper relaxation first. Because that's the ground, the energy field that your mind is going to anchor down. And your mind, when your mind is so fully settled, you start to rise. So please don't go ahead of the reality. Be honest. And truthful with what's happening, what you're feeling right now at this moment. And openly, lovingly, completely be with it. Continuing the concentration into your lower belly. And now please, with a smooth inhale, let's move your mind to your forehead. And imagine the shiny light, very bright, inside and also outside, in your forehead. See it and feel it, taking it as a light of wisdom, the light of your consciousness. Let it be, rise over your physical body. Let it guide your mind, expand out of your identification about who you are. So through the light, we see each other. Through the light, we see how we are intimately connected to each other. Ultimately, how we are all one together. With a soft exhalation, please let go of the effort to stay still, and you can gently open your eyes. Sorry, I didn't know what was happening. If you are meditating, you probably didn't know either.
That's true. Yeah, if you were really meditating, you had no idea that your cat was there. I clearly had one eye open and saw a kitty.
Yeah.
Cat samadhi.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, it's wonderful.
Oh, he tried to involve.
Well, and that's, I mean, I know when I had a cat during my very first yoga teacher training, she was never interested in me more than when I was on my yoga mat trying to practice. And so it's almost like pets and animals and kids are like, ooh, something, give me some of this, whatever's happening over here.
Well,
Just
plus
to let you know, I have 3 cats around here.
the distractions are the practice.
Exactly.
They're not distractions. Yeah. They are forcing us back into the space of how am I going to respond to that? Yes.
How can I stay connected inward even when there's something happening outward?
Yeah.
That is the thing.
That's why those Zen masters that Jee studied with walk around with a stick hitting people. That's the really extreme form. None of us teach that, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Maybe I might echoing Tom, but if you have like situation like mine, animals around you, maybe even babies running around you, but you try to meditate, you try to do yoga, I would suggest like let it happen. It's
Yeah.
like your dharma. So yeah, it's part of your practice. Yeah, part of your entire life,
Absolutely.
yourself. So yeah, let it be.
Yeah. All right, Andy, why don't you close us out with a practice here?
Okay, so we'll do a little something that kind of maybe blends the two, but we're going to start with a breathing exercise. This is called Nadi Shodhana Pranayama, or alternate nostril breathing. Your left hand is going to be in a hand gesture. In yoga, we call this mudra. And you're just going to have the palm open on your lap. This is the left hand, so on the left thigh. You're going to take the first two fingers and just put them in between the eyebrows. Your thumb is resting on your right nostril and your ring finger, pinky, on the left. So we're not going to make any extra effort to breathe. However you're breathing, we're just going to guide the breath. And if you're comfortable enough, you close the eyes, but close the eyes as soon as you can. And we'll start by breathing in through both nostrils. Close the right nostril and breathe out through the left. Back in through the left. Close the left, open the right, and breathe out. Back in through the right. And out through the left. This is one round, and we'll just do a few more at your own pace. In through the left. Out through the right. In through the right. Out through the left. And the next time you breathe out through the left nostril, you can just relax both hands in your lap. Eyes are closed. So whatever you hear, whatever instruction, you just listen and let go. We're not going to make any effort to follow any instruction. Let's take a deep, natural breath in and let go. Just become aware of the breath in the nostrils. The breath is moving in and out, all on its own, without any effort. Incoming breath energizes the body, and outgoing breath brings relief and relaxation. Breathe in with a smile and breathe out with a smile. Become aware of any sound or noise around you and accept them. Let them be. Take another deep breath in. And as you breathe out, let go all your efforts. Become aware of your physical body. The body is a precious gift given to us by nature. Cherish the body that you have. And become aware of any pleasant or unpleasant sensations in the body. Take a deep breath in and breathe out and let go more and more. Become aware of the thoughts in the mind. Good thoughts or bad thoughts. Be in harmony with them. Do not resist the thoughts. Let them come. Now you are in harmony with their thoughts. Take a deep breath in and let go. Become aware of the thoughts and the feelings, pleasant or unpleasant. Accept the feelings as they are. You are peace and joy. Become aware of the feelings. Become aware of the thoughts. Become aware of the body and surroundings. Take a deep breath in and let go. Gradually and slowly, at your own pace, you may open the eyes.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for this discussion and for the practice. And just real quickly, anything any of you want to share about how people can find you or follow your work or anything like that?
I wanted to say something because Tom is working in healthcare. So the Art of Living is offering free resilience training, offering their program for free for any healthcare worker. It's on the front line. So it could be a doctor, a nurse, could be a janitor, doesn't matter if you're in healthcare. It's a online program, and then there's live sessions with the teacher after do their videos, and it's free. So I'd like to get that. Otherwise, you just go to artofliving.org, and our main program, which is breath-based, is offered now online. Live sessions with a teacher, as well as pre-recorded
Wonderful. Thank you. I'm typing websites into the chat box that I'm going to share here in a moment.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Tom, how about you?
Yeah, I've got a pretty in-depth group coaching that's going to start in July. So if folks are interested, this is primarily for leaders in healthcare, business, or education who are struggling with overwhelm or maybe even burnout, to quickly get out of that space, get centered in a practice, and then get a lot of clarity and alignment on purpose and how you're living that out as a leader. So the best way to engage would be to go to thomasjbushlack.com. If you go to /apply, so thomasjbushlack.com/apply, you can sign up and we'll do a 45-minute session to see if the program is right for you. No pressure, but have that conversation and get clarity on what people are looking for. I'm also easy to find on Facebook to just send me a message. So that's another way.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Jee, how about you?
I'm teaching at Urban Breath Yoga in St. Louis. So yeah, you can easily find me actually. Just Google Urban Breath and I'm right there. And I just want to let you guys know that this is the first day of 18 days yoga meditation challenge that happening in a breath. So it's of course online based. So you are, if you sign up, you get the record. Like so it basically 18 days mean I choose the number 18. I mean, I wanted to do 108, but I felt that's way too long first. So it's very impractical. And then 18 days, number 18 is very significant in Hindu culture also, in the Buddhism too. So, so I thought maybe 18 days is good. And then 18 sometimes translated as Jaya, meaning like victory. And we are in such a difficult time. So I thought maybe this is a good time that we can do this. So we victory over this difficult time, victory over our own sufferings and over our own, emotional eruptions, things like that. So
wonderful.
Yeah, taking meditation as a healing process, and the purpose of this course is establishing, helping that daily meditation habit. So
wonderful.
I thought 18 days is just a good enough time to start with that. So yeah, so 18 minutes yoga meditation practice. Mainly the main technique is a nyasa, meaning like a chakra meditation. So yeah, just to let you know that you can start from today.
Wonderful.
And it's going on, and then you have 20 days to finish it.
Oh, you get a couple bonus days then.
So
wonderful.
Hard to miss.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us this morning. And up next at 10 o'clock is Comedic Yoga with Sol Asar. And so if you're joining us live, we're offering all this programming free. If you're in a position to make a contribution, we're raising money for the St. Louis Yoga Teacher Relief Fund, where we will be awarding $500 grants to teachers who have been deeply impacted economically by COVID-19 disruptions, as well as Black teachers in our Black yoga teachers in our community who are sharing yoga within their communities to share resiliency. So you can find that at stlyogaweek.com/fund. I'll put it in the chat. And thank you all again so much. I look forward to practicing some of this with you again soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.